So today during our webinar, we are going to talk about just a brief introduction to Dreambox from the perspective of our three pillars: adaptive, rigorous, and motivating. Then we're going to dive into the student learning environment. We'll spend a lot of time talking about how to get your students and get yourselves started in Dreambox. Then we'll go into the dashboard itself and discuss how to monitor progress and really how to use the data within Dreambox. All right, so next we're going to go into how to get started with Dreambox in your classrooms. So first off, we do want to set up some student expectations. So we do really want to make sure we emphasize with students that they should always do their very best to finish the lessons that have opened for them. We're not going to adapt their pathway forward or backward until they've completed the lessons that we have given them. And if they're struggling through a lesson, they should use the help or the hint button to get the assistance that they need. And that really does help encourage them to work independently. So they really shouldn't need assistance from parents, teachers, or peers to work through Dreambox. The help and the hint button really should be sufficient to help them work through every single lesson. And then finally, we do want to make sure that they use the manipulative that's on the screen to help them problem solve. So they certainly should not use paper, pencil, or calculator to help them work through the problems. When they work through the manipulative, that also gives Dreambox a little more insight into that student as a learner. We can see their response time, and we can also see how they're constructing the answers, what strategies they're using. And so we get to learn about that learner and provide them with the right level of lesson for the particular level that they're working on. Now, one of the questions that we had earlier when you all had some playtime in Dreambox as a student yourself was this: how much daily time should my kindergarten students spend in the learning lessons? So that's a great question. At Dreambox, we don't necessarily share daily time. Our recommendations really are based upon a weekly usage. So when your students are logging into Dreambox, we do want your students over the course of a week to really work on Dreambox for 30 to 60 minutes. So that is really important just to note. So in the course of those 30 to 60 minutes throughout the course of a week, they should be able to complete about 5 to 10 lessons, and those lessons should each take between 5 to 10 minutes for students to actually complete those lessons. Now, when you're thinking about, designing your Dreambox learning time, we do want students to have at least 20-minute sessions in Dreambox. So if you're trying to go for about 60 minutes in Dreambox throughout the course of a week, it should be, 3 20-minute sessions, or you can do longer if that works for your students and for your schedule. We do want to make sure that students do get their recommended time in Dreambox per week, and you really should share with your students that goal for weekly lesson completion. So in the kindergarten through second grade level, we really want to share that students should be completing about 5 to 10 lessons over the course of a week. And we can track their weekly usage within the teacher dashboard, which is actually one of the things that we're going to do next. So we are going to hop into the teacher dashboard. If you have any questions about anything that I've covered so far, do make sure that you enter that question into the chat box. We are going to go ahead and keep going. So we are going to log into a teacher dashboard next, and you're welcome to watch me sequence through a teacher dashboard right now, or if you'd like, you can also log into your own teacher dashboard and just follow along with me. It's totally up to you. So I'm going to go ahead and get that teacher dashboard ready and get logged in. Great question from Leah. How do you log into your dashboard? So I'm actually going to show you how to do that. So to log into your dashboard, you're going to go to play.dreambox.com. And you're going to get a screen that looks very similar to mine when you go to play.dreambox.com. All right, so I'm going to, when I go to play.dreambox.com, and you should already have an account set up. We have, your district has shared information with us, and so you should have an account already set up. So if you actually want to try this out during the webinar today, that'd be great. So go to play.dreambox.com. You'll get a screen that looks very similar to mine. And the first time that you get logged in, you are going to have to set up your password. So you're going to go to the Forgot Your Password Educator link and enter in your email address. When you click Submit, it's going to send an email to that email address if your account was set up. And then you'll be prompted to go ahead and reset your password because that's not something that Dreambox does for you. You'll have to do it yourself. So after I go to play.dreambox.com and I fill in the Forgot My Password section and click Login or click Submit, then I'll be able to log into my teacher dashboard. So I'm going to go ahead and get logged into a sample dashboard myself, and I'm just going to show you how to go ahead and sequence through the dashboard. The very first thing I want to talk to you about, though, is just plain old navigation. So we're going to go to the top right-hand corner, top left-hand corner of our screen and find the 3 parallel lines next to Dreambox Learning. Now I know some of us are actually getting logged into our dashboards for the first time, so do let me know if you need me to pause. Then I can do that before we go on to this next bit, because I would like for you all to kind of keep pace with me. Okay, so Amy, you're saying it's not letting you hit forgot my password. Let's see. So is it not letting you hit forgot my password or not letting you hit submit? Because if it's not letting you hit submit, that tells us that for some reason it may not have created a teacher account. And it's not letting you hit forgot your password. Let's see. Okay, I'm going to send you the address that you need to go to, and let's just make sure. Yep, you have to click on Educator. Forgot your password, you have to click on Educator. And that's how you get there. All right. Now to get logged in, you're going to use your email address and the password that you set. All right, so we're going to go over navigation real quickly here. So I'm going to look for the Dreambox Learning logo in the top left-hand corner and find those 3 parallel lines next to the Dreambox Learning logo. When I click on those 3 parallel lines, it's going to allow me to open and close a navigation pane. Now from this navigation pane, I have a few different options. When I click on my name, it's always going to take me to the teacher landing page, which is the page that you'll see when you initially log into Dreambox. I'll always know that I'm at the teacher landing page because I will see a little badge here inside a blue icon. From my teacher landing page, I can navigate to my classrooms. I've actually got 3 in this account. I can navigate to them by either clicking on the link within the navigation pane or clicking on the classroom's cards that I see in the center of my screen. So I'm going to go ahead into my K-2 class. All right. And I know that I'm actually at the classroom level. So I'm going to go in, I'm at the classroom level because I see this purple icon here. So just as a review really quickly, I'm going to look for the 3 parallel lines next to the Dreambox Learning logo to open up the navigation pane. I'm going to click on my name. That will take me to the teacher landing page. And then from here, if I want to go into a classroom, I can click on the name of the classroom, either in my navigation pane or the class card that we just saw. And that takes me to the classroom level. Here at the classroom, I know I'm at the classroom level because I see the purple icon with a desk on it. When I'm at the classroom level, I see my students' information entered into the drawer. So here I can see I've got Charlie here, and he's got a little triangle that's orange next to his name. Now this orange triangle is an alert generated by Dreambox, letting me know that either the student was not proficient in lessons that he was working on, or maybe he's not getting enough time in Dreambox, or he's not completing lessons. When I hover over the triangle, it will let me know the reason why the student has the little alert. So the student's actually having trouble with completing lessons with proficiency. Now, a green indicator is kind of a congratulatory indicator that tells me that the student has completed 5 or more lessons or has completed at least an hour in Dreambox. So that's cause for celebration for this student. If a student doesn't have an indicator next to their name, that just means that the student is working in Dreambox and has been making progress toward the goal of 5 to 10 lessons completed or an hour in Dreambox, but they haven't reached it just yet. So there's no real cause for concern because they are making progress. To get to any of my students and look at their account, I can click on the student's name, and it will take me to the student level account where I can see their name at the top of the screen, as well as the icon that they selected whenever they started working in Dreambox. Now from here, I'm going to go back up to my classroom level. So I'm going to find the classroom within my navigation pane. And remember, I'm looking for that purple icon for the classroom. Now, after we play around in Dreambox and you learn a little bit about the navigation, then I want you to go ahead to the Edit button, which is right next to the purple icon for the classroom. This Edit button allows me to ensure that my students are all set up appropriately and that this account for this particular class is set up the way that I want it to be set up in Dreambox. So I should see 4 tabs immediately appear: Settings, Engagement Restrictions, Roster, as well as Password Type. So from the Settings tab, I need to set the classroom name as well as the grade level. If I want to share my student data with another teacher, then I can do so by using the drop-down to find that teacher, and it has to be a teacher who has a Dreambox dashboard already. So let's say that Jessica is a teacher that I want to share my student data with. So I click on that teacher's name and click Add. So this means when she logs into her dashboard, she'll be able to see this class information as well as any other classes that she has that uses Dreambox. The next tab is the Engagement Restrictions tab, and this allows me to set the school hours, which will allow Dreambox to see when students are logging into Dreambox and playing through their lessons. When students are playing outside of school hours, we call that extended use. I can also decide when my students have access to the games portion of the learning environment. And for your kindergarten through 2nd grade students, that's called the Arcade and My House. So the Arcade is where they spend their gold coins to play 60 to 90-second games. And My House is where they can change their avatar or also visit those digital manipulative tutorials. If I find they're spending too much time in those portions of the learning environment, I can just uncheck the boxes for the days that I don't want them to have access. And now my students only have access to those portions of the learning environment in non-school hours. The next tab is the Roster tab. Now, there are only a few things that you all are going to have to do in this Roster tab. I do want to make sure that you all, first off, understand that you do not need to add or to remove student accounts using this Roster tab. The reason why is that you all actually share your student data with us via a service called Clever. So every night, right around midnight, Clever is going to sync with your student information system. So as students are added or removed from that student information system, we are going to automatically create or delete your student accounts. So you'll never have to go in and add a student, and you also should not go use this remove feature at the end of this list. Now, you will want to go in and check the grade level. Here, we want to make sure that that's set to the actual grade level the student is in. Now, curricular grade actually sets the content that the student sees. So if a student is significantly above grade level, like Ellie here, she's a second grader, but she's really working at a third grade level, then she actually can get that third grade content with the second grade learning environment. Also, if I have a student who's working significantly below grade level, like this first grader, Greg, here, is actually working at a kindergarten level. I can set his starting point at the kindergarten level. Now, it's really important that you set the curricular grade to the actual grade level that you want your students, that you want the students to work in from the start, okay? As students start playing in Dreambox, we're going to be adapting forward and backward to adjust the level on a lesson-by-lesson basis. But you cannot go back yourself and reset that curricular grade after a student has started working. You do need to contact Dreambox to have that adjustment made, and we're more than happy to do that for you. It's just a quick call to our client success team. You let us know which student needs to be set back and which grade level they need to be set back to, and we can do that very quickly. So do try to set that curricular grade to the appropriate starting point before your students start working in Dreambox. From here, you can change use the drop down here to change the language from English to Spanish if need be. Usernames should already be generated by the Clever Sync. And then finally, you have a couple different options for password. So let me go to the next tab really quickly and show you those two different options. Right now I have my kindergarten through second grade classroom set to a picture password, but you could also use a text password. I prefer to use the picture password for students at the kindergarten through second grade level because it does expedite the login process for students. So they would just, and let me show you in just a moment what that login process would look like. And at the end of today's webinar, I had a great question from Leah. I'll send you those directions on how to set the kids back. So I just want to go over those directions really quickly. So if we wanted to set them back a grade level, you just go into the roster tab, go to curricular grade, and you decide the grade level by choosing the grade level here. Okay. And I'll give you the contact information for the client success team to get that curricular grade reset if needed. I'll give that to you at the end of the session today. I have a couple other questions that have come through. Okay, so just want to review how to change the password type to picture password. So I'm going to go to the password type, and then I'll go use the drop down to select the picture password. From here, when students log in using the picture password for the first time, it will ask them to select from one of 9 pictures, or you can also use the drop down to set which picture you'd like for your students to select when they log in to Dreambox. Okay. I have another question about curricular grade. So the question is, so should I set the curricular grade according to the teacher observation, and will it change as the students use it? Fantastic question. So yes, you should set the curricular grade according to what you've observed with the student. Also use any information you have, and if there's a cumulative folder that's traveled with that student, especially for your first and second graders, you can use that information to determine their starting point. And Dreambox will take it from there and will adapt forward and backward on a lesson-by-lesson basis to really figure out where students are for each domain in math. Thanks for asking that question. All right, and last question. If you're using a text password, are they automatically set, are they the same as the Lexia Core 5 passwords as they were last year? And Michelle, you know what, if their password type is currently set to text password, and that text password has been shared through Clever, then it probably is the same if as last year. But if it is set to a picture password and you have to change it to a text password, like for my class, Dreambox will automatically go back and set the text password to password, so you would have to change it. And I have the answer from Rosie. Thank you so much, Rosie. So she let me know that you all actually set the password special last year for Lexia. So you would have to do the same thing for Dreambox. You'd have to go into text password and set those passwords the same as what they used last year. That's what you choose to do. So thanks so much, Rosie. Appreciate that helpful hint. All right, so I'm actually going to exit from this spot in the dashboard. And next, we're going to go to the Dreambox Access Resources. So here from the Dreambox Access Resources, this gives you the internet address if you're going to use this on desktops, as well as the iPad school code. If you want to invite your parents to use Dreambox at home with their students, then we have these invitation letters. This gives parents the login information, the internet address, as well as the iPad code for your school. And then it also allows the parents to set up a parent account so they can see their students' progress through Dreambox. And they can also set up a family dashboard or family email updates. Okay. When they get those family email updates, it's going to let them know when their student has not logged in for a period of 7 days. And it also will let them know when their student has completed an entire group of lessons. They get a congratulatory email that outlines what the student did, and then also how the family can continue to practice that skill or strategy at home. So when you first log into your Dreambox account, you're going to see this little icon here. To get into the classroom level, I'm going to click on the classroom name in my drawer, and then I'll see that little purple icon appear. Okay, I hope that helps. All right, so after all of my dashboard and student accounts are set up, then I want to give my students their playtime in Dreambox. And after the first 7 days, I want to log in and review my students' information. So I'm going to do that by going to the Overview tab that I see here and using the drop-down arrow to select the last 7 days. And I select the last 7 days because I always want to go into my dashboard at least once a week to review student data. From setting the last 7 days for my date range, I'll go down to the lessons column and click it once so that I can sort the data from least to greatest. So now the students who have completed the least number of lessons have floated to the top. So I can see, for example, here that Mamie has completed 1 lesson in 17 minutes. So that's really not too far outside of the lesson completion rate that I would actually, I would almost expect her to get 2 lessons, but it's, maybe she was on her way to completing that second lesson. So I can see that Charlie's completed 3 lessons in 28 minutes. So the rest of my students really are completing lessons at a pretty good pace here. So I'm really looking to see if a student has a lot of time in Dreambox and not a lot of lessons completed. That tells me their student may be struggling through a lesson, not completing lessons, or also maybe spending a lot of time in the games portion of the learning environment. Now from here, I want to also take a look to see if students are making progress in the standards that we're covering. So if a student has completed lessons, they should show progress in at least 1 standard. So I'm a little worried about Mamie here because she completed a lesson, but it shows me that she struggled through the lesson because she didn't actually make forward progress in a standard. So she's actually a kid that I'm going to take a look at here. So I'm going to go ahead and click on her name to get to her account. And I'm actually going to close this navigation pane, the blue navigation pane on the side, so I can see a little bit more information here. And to do that, just as a reminder, I'm going to click on the 3 parallel lines to close that drawer. And just remember, if you want to open it at any time, you're going to go ahead and click the navigation pane to open it up again. And from that navigation pane, just as a reminder, I went into a classroom and then I clicked on one of my students. Okay, all right. So from here, now I'm going to take a look at Mamie and see what she's been up to in Dreambox. And I can do that through these cards here. Each one of these cards represents a lesson that students have been working on in Dreambox. Now there are actually 4 different types of lesson cards that you can see in Dreambox. The first type of lesson card is a lesson group completed. That means that they've completed quite a few lessons, for this student's case, 14 lessons, and they've completed all of the lessons for that lesson group. I can see the codes for the standards on that lesson card, and I can even play a demo version of that, one of the lessons from that lesson group. I might also see a lesson completed card that's going to be noted by green text, also with a green circle and a check mark in it. Now this also is a lesson that was assigned by the teacher. I can see that by that assigned lesson text, as well as this blue notebook with a star on it. That lets me know that the lesson was assigned. Now the next two cards are the types of cards that I'm really looking to see. So this first card is a lesson completed with no demonstrated understanding. So this means that the student really struggled through the lesson, and Dreambox is actually adapting backward after the student completed this lesson. This type of lesson card will actually also have a gray check mark on it. And then finally, I might also see a lesson paused card. This type of card means that a student clicked into the lesson and clicked back out of the lesson before the lesson was completed all the way through. So I do want to go back into that student's account and see if there are any lessons that have a gray check mark or a gray pause button on them. Okay. So immediately I see a gray check mark, which means that she didn't demonstrate understanding on a lesson that I assigned. I also see that I have gray pause buttons. Now I'm going to take a look down at her account and see if I see a series of those. I actually do. I see a series of gray pause buttons, and that lets me know that she has been looking into lessons and playing them for a little bit but not completing them. So the first thing I want to do with this student is to remind her to always finish the lessons that she has opened. Now, if I saw a series of lessons, maybe the same little descriptor on a lesson card, but I noticed that that lesson did not show demonstrated understanding, then I might even want to play a lesson with this student. And it's actually okay to play a lesson if you click on the Play Lesson button from the dashboard, because Dreambox is not going to actually track any data on how the student plays through this lesson. So you might want to see how they're engaging with the manipulative to help them solve the problem. I also want to see if they're using the help button, or if it's available, if there's like a little hint here too, maybe a little light bulb. There are little light bulbs on some of the little lessons. I also want to see if it's maybe just the math that's getting in the way, and if I can provide them with a helpful hint to successfully solve the problem. Now, this is the only time that I would assist a student in working through Dreambox is when I click on the Play Lesson button. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and leave this. So I would want to look for these gray cards for any student who has a lot of time in Dreambox and not a lot of lessons completed, or who has completed a lesson but hasn't shown progress in any standards. And by the way, when parents sign up for a parent dashboard account, this is the view of student information that they would see when they log into their family dashboard. I had another fantastic question come through. So does Dreambox ever just send reports, or do we always have to log in to see student information? We do not send reports to you, so you will have to log in to see your student level information. Great question. Thanks you all. I want to thank you all so much for being so interactive on the questions in the chat. It really does help me make sure that you all are following along with me, and I also want to make sure that we answer all of your questions as we go through today's session. So thanks so much, and keep it up. So I'm actually just opened up my drawer by clicking on the 3 parallel lines, and now I'm going to go to the classroom level again by clicking on the classroom. And there are a few more pieces of information that I do want to share. So we're going to go to the Overview tab from the Classroom view, and now I'm going to look at Proficiency in the right-hand side of the screen. So Proficiency tells me the standards that students have been through or completed all of the content for with demonstrated understanding. So let's take a look at this kindergarten column first. So when it says kindergarten, it says out of 13. That means that Dreambox Learning covers 13 standards with our content. So for example here, Doris has covered 13 out of the 13 kindergarten standards that we cover in Dreambox Learning. When I hover over the number 13, I can see the codes for the standards that she covered appear. Doris has also covered or been all the way through 12 of the 14 grade 1 standards and 5 out of the 14 grade 2 standards. So that allows me just to view student progress through the content in Dreambox in a different way. If I want to see what my students and my whole class have been working on most recently, then I can go to the Activity tab, and this allows me to see the lessons that students have been working on recently. Also, if I want to see if there is a particular lesson group that my students are working on in Dreambox, I can go to the What Are My Students Working On section on the right-hand side, and I can see that a lot of my students, 12 of them in fact, are working on identifying more or less up to 100. When I click the drop-down, it lets me see which 12 students are working on this in Dreambox, and then I can see the standards connected to that particular lesson group. Now the next tab is the Standards tab, and it's actually got a couple different views. So the Grid view allows me to look at all of the standards covered for the grade level that I select. So I can see that these are the standards that Dreambox Learning covers. And now I can scroll down to my class and see which standards my students have worked on. So Doris here has covered all of these standards that are noted by a green indicator. Edmundo has 6 standards that he's currently in progress, or he's got some lessons in his queue that are working on these standards. But he's also got some standards that he hasn't gotten to yet. And there are a couple reasons why a student may not have gotten to a standard. One, it may just be that the students haven't had enough time to get to that work in Dreambox, or 2, it might be because there's another standard that's more foundational that we're working them through before it's appropriate to put them on this particular standard. Now from this grid view, I can also go to a second view called the grouping view. And I really like to use this view when thinking about flexibly grouping students. So if I go to Number and Operations in Base 10, and let's say that I'm going to be teaching this standard. Okay, so my kids are going to be working on counting to 120. This is immediately going to sort my students according to their experience with this standard. So the students in the Standard Not Started category are the students who haven't completed any lessons for this standard. The students in the Standard in Progress category are students who've completed at least one lesson with understanding. And by the way, the percent next to their name in this category doesn't mean that that's the percent of their percentage that reflects their understanding. This percentage actually tells me the percentage of the Dreambox Learning content for the standard that they've been through with understanding. So Kenneth has been 95.8% of the way through the content for this standard, where Valencia is just starting at 8.3%. Now the last column are the students who are proficient in the standard, and this means they've been through all of this content with demonstrated understanding, and we're moving them on to other content in Dreambox. Now, as I selected the standard here, you might have noticed that the student, that I'm actually able to add an assignment. So when I click Add Assignment, I can see the grade level that I was just working in, the domain that I was just on the last screen, as well as the standard that I selected. And I can see all of my students once again sorted according to their level of progress for this particular standard. And I can actually add assignments for all of my students. So if this is a standard we're working on in Dreambox or working on in the classroom and I want them to work on it in Dreambox, they can do so by using this what we call assign focus feature. So I can determine which students get this assignment. So maybe I want my kids in all 3 categories to get this assignment. And Dreambox is going to use the data that we've collected about each student to pick the right level of lesson for the students. So Charlie, Mamie, and Roxana, because they haven't started this lesson this standard just yet, are going to get 2 just started lessons that are going to introduce the topic. My 4 students in the Standard in Progress category are going to get 2 in progress lessons that are going to be right along with what Dreambox is going to give them anyway. And those in the Proficient in Standard category are going to get a review lesson to help increase their fluency. If they do well on that review lesson, then that's the only assignment that they will see. But if they struggle through that review lesson, then we'll give them an additional lesson to help increase their understanding of this topic. So I get to decide which students get this assignment, and I can click the Add Assignment button. I can make 2 assignments for my students every 7 days in Dreambox, and students do have a period of 7 days to complete this assignment. Now from the student view, students are actually going to see, and you'll have to excuse me because the screenshot that I have is actually from the 3rd through 5th grade learning environment, but your students will see a little circles for their lessons. In the 3rd through 5th grade learning environment, they have little lesson cards like this, but every student will see this little icon here for the assigned lesson. So that would appear on the corner of on the edge of the circles that students see in the K through 2 learning environment. Students would click on the circle that has the blue icon on it, and it would open up the very first lesson in their assignments. We're going to collect data on how that student has played through that lesson, and that will help us determine what the second lesson needs to look like. Does it need to be a step forward, or does it need to be a step backward? So we're still holding true to the nature of Dreambox and adapting forward and backward, even when they get teacher-assigned lessons. Now, after an assignment has been completed by the student, you all as teachers can actually go into the Assign Focus tab that I'm in here. So I was in a classroom. I went to the Assign Focus tab, and I can review the data on that tells me how the students played through that lesson. So I'm actually going to go scroll down on this page. And one of the lessons that I had my students complete recently was building columns on a hundreds chart. Okay. So now I can see, for example, that Doris here did complete the assignment. It took her 5 minutes to complete that assignment, and she got a review lesson. She did pretty well on that review lesson, and so that is actually the only lesson that she was given because she did well on that lesson, and she was already working on the highest level lesson. If I want to see that lesson, then I can click the More button to actually view that lesson and play through it with my students. Now, if a student is not demonstrating understanding, like Mamie here, she did not complete the whole assignment. She spent 5 minutes on the first lesson. She got a progressing lesson, and I can see that gray check mark there that tells me that she did not demonstrate understanding. She also did not work through the second assignment. I can click the More button to see the lesson that she worked on, and I can even bring this up and play this with her, with a group of students, or even have the whole class play it together. Okay. So I have a couple really great questions that have come through, and I want to just show you a couple of things that are going to answer those questions. So first question, so if you want a student to work on assigned activities, you have to check to see if they clicked it, and they can skip it or they can go to a choice instead, correct? So yes, that is actually correct. So we do still have an element of student choice. So they will see the lesson that you assigned as well as their other lessons. Now I can tell you that that I've played this in my own student account at the kindergarten through second grade level, and I did try to avoid student lessons. What it did is as I completed those other lessons and didn't go into the teacher assigned lesson, it would actually not present me with other options eventually. So sometimes that will kind of kick in because we'll notice that students are avoiding that teacher assigned lesson. So we will try to coax them into completing those teacher assigned lessons. Now, there are a couple questions about lesson type, what it means for progressing, and then review lesson. So there actually is going to be a key here at the top of the Assign Focus tab. So a progressing lesson means that that's just the students already had some experience with that standard, and so we're just going to focus on where they left off when they were already experiencing that standard in Dreambox. A review lesson means that they've completed all of this content already. They've moved on to other stuff, but we're going to take them back into that lesson again to get an extra review of that particular content. Okay, so those are some really great questions about Assign Focus, and we've got some keys here to help you understand the data. Also, if you have further questions about Assign Focus, there is a support article here that's just nested right in the middle. Okay. All right. Now, I have one more question that I want to answer before we get on to other things. So the roster tab, so if you need to get your usernames and your passwords for your students and have those printed out to kind of help your students get logged in, you can print those out and put those in your sub-plan book or put those in your plan book so you've got them at your fingertips at any time. I do want to go back over the curricular grade again. So that was a question that's just popped up. So if I go into a classroom and then go to the edit button, it's going to take me to I'm going to go to the roster tab, which is the third tab, and curricular grade is the fourth column. Actually, the fifth column. Okay. Thanks so much for asking that fantastic question. All right, everyone. So I realize we have gone through quite a bit of information during today's webinar. I do want to give you all some additional resources that you can use to help you throughout the school year. So first off, we've got a really great website from the support link in the top right-hand corner. This is going to give you step-by-step directions that also have screenshots, and they often also have some videos to help you better understand Dreambox. So if you want to try to find those answers yourself, the support link is a really great option. Also, if you're just trying to get through those first 30 days in Dreambox, we've got a quick start guide here. Now, the quick start guide can help you prepare your student information, your devices for rollout. It does give you some helpful hints on how to introduce this to your classroom. And then finally, we do give you some guidelines on how to continue implementation throughout the school year. So how do you hold your students accountable as well as share parent access. And that's available through our Quick Start Guide here. Finally, we also have a few resource hubs. I'm going to go into the Teacher Hub. Now the Teacher Hub is going to give us another way to get into the Quick Start Guide. We also have Family Math Night resources if you want to bring Dreambox into a Family Math Night, open house, or a curriculum night. We have teacher tools here, and these are interactive whiteboard tools that you can use to integrate some Dreambox lessons into your classroom. There also are going to be some lesson plans available with those teacher tools. We have a little page here for standards alignment so you can see which standards we do cover. And then finally in our classroom motivator section, we've got a whole bunch of goodies for you. So this is where you can get calendars to keep students motivated in completing lessons. We've got certificates, some rainy day sort of elementary school activities, math journals that have grade level appropriate prompts to get students to think about their thinking in Dreambox. And then finally, we have some ways for students to track their progress through the Adventure Park. So this Adventure Friend checklist is a way that students can track their progress through the different storylines. And those are all available through our Teacher Hub. And just as a review, to get to that, you go to the Resource Hubs and select Teacher Hub as your option. Now, I know that I have shared a ton of information, and you all have done a fantastic job of making sure that you ask lots of really fantastic questions. If you have any questions that pop up after today's webinar, you are more than welcome to contact me with those questions. I'll make sure that I try to get back to you just as soon as I possibly can. You can also contact our client success team. Now, I promised you that I'd give you the contact information for the folks that would help you reset curricular grade or answer any questions that you might have if you are having any problems with Dreambox, and that's our client success team. They're really our help desk extraordinaire, and these fantastic folks are the people who can help you work through any problems that you're having in Dreambox. You can either email them at support@dreambox.com or call the 877 number that's on your screen. If you don't get a hold of them right away via email or phone right now, know that this is really their busiest time of year, and they really are working to help everyone who reaches out to them. But do be patient because it may take them a couple of days for them to get back to you. Okay? I'm going to stick around and see if anyone has any additional questions. I'm always more than happy to help you all. But if you all don't have any further questions, then I hope you all have a fantastic day, and I hope you have a really wonderful school year. So I'm going to hang around for probably about 5 more minutes to answer those questions. Thank you all so much today.